We always care about what other people think of us and how other people judge us, so we put on different masks to let us be what other people would want us to be. We also lie to ourselves what we have done is right and keep telling ourselves we can do this even though we already know we couldn't have done it in our mind. The reason we lie to ourselves is just because we're scared to face what is waiting for us and to face the truth. Humans should be free. We should not get limited in properties. For example, a teacher's property is to teach students the knowledge that they need to know. Let teachers believe that is what he should do. It is a bad faith because this teacher can choose to do other things that he loves to do. He doesn't need to wear on teacher's mask. We judge ourselves from other people's eyes and point of view. We always ask other people what we have done well and what we didn't. When other people comment on something we have done, we will feel like we are judged by others, and we will try to change. But the truth is, we are just trying to get a dedicate from other people's confidence to our judgment toward ourselves that is already in our hearts. We will always think, why am I doing that in the past and why should I do in my future? Which causes us to suffer. Every people will want to have a little wonderland in their mind, where they are always safe and happy, don't need to face anything that they are afraid of. But that is bad faith. We are lying to others and even ourselves. When someone breaks our little wonderland and pulls off our mask, we feel guilt because we need to face the truth. Guilt is like a mirror that reflects what we have done in the past and what we lied. When you are standing in front of the mirror reflects what we truly look like. Guilt makes us face our path and truth. We can decide to face what we have done and not to feel guilty anymore. But if you are still afraid to face it, you will feel guilt for your whole life until you got breath to face it. The train that can get you out from guilt is always there. It won't go anywhere. The ticket of getting on the train is also on your hand. You only need to be brave and face it. We cannot always live in the past. Like Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. We must look back at our past so that we can learn from our mistake, but we must not dwell there too long, for we must move forward and with the experience we have had.
An existential crisis is when a person experiences mixed feelings toward who he really is. So he tells himself, why do we exist? Why do we live in this part of the world rather than any other? Why are we doing this job rather than another one? We discover that we are freer than we thought, and we have far more options that we see and are present in front of our eyes. Second is that we shockingly discover that our ultimate responsibility is to ourselves and not the social world. So the choices you make affect yourself solely and not other people. You make choices completely based on yourself. An individual gets to know that he has far more freedom, that he doesn't have to obey others. He is on his own. We develop a more heightened awareness of death. This is because we think that we need to reevaluate our lives. Unfortunately, time is limited, and we know every second passes by. We often regret that we haven't done a set of things previously. It's too late now. This adds up to the stress that we experience during this crisis. Finally, the very essence of this crisis is that we have many choices, but are often blind of the information needed to determine what consequences we will face, or if we have chosen adequately. The feelings we experience while making decisions is often called anxiety by the existentialists. Although the existentialists believe that there is definitely an intelligent choice, which can reduce the amount of tragic consequences. The existentialists also tell us we should believe that we had the option to choose correctly, but failed to do it. Yes, we would face a slight disappointment, but in all, that disappointment is just the human condition. In the play, Garson chooses his agony of the mind. This can be seen in one of his lines on page 203. Garson says, "That won't be difficult. Each of us has plenty of material for self-communings. I think I could stay 10,000 years with only my thoughts and for company." According to Sartre and his concept of personal freedom, Garson has to make a choice, and he has to be held responsible for the fallout. He has no one but himself to blame for hell, and ironically, its lack of exits. The whole play reflects a key concept. Our responsibility is to ourselves and not to any other individual or organization. The most important moment in this play is Orestes during the end of Act 2, and the start of Scene 1, where Orestes encounters the anguish of what we call it anger of personal freedom and decides to act on it instead of fleeing from it. So what Sartre is basically telling us is that he has the freedom to decide, and that Zeus or his sister is not going to affect what he's going to experience. So he's on his own. He realizes that, and he feels a sense of anguish. During the very end of the story, Orestes is given the opportunity to reflect on his actions and explain his choices to Zeus. Sartre explains his point here by showing us the trembling we experience when discovering personal freedom. Also, we can see the Furies. One line says, "Only the suffering of your body can take your mind off your suffering soul. So come and let us hurt you." This is when the flies tell This is what the flies tell to Electra when she's being forced by the thoughts of her brother murdering. We can clearly see that Electra is experiencing more emotional pain, far more emotional pain than she would experience if the flies hurt her. This means that it's all upon us to either face freedom or just keep escaping from its shadows.
Trying to fit into the environment and society means that many of us need to change. This to many means going out of our comfort zone. This leads to us putting on different masks so that our true self won't be judged. But over time it stacks more and more, and this leads to us not knowing who we were before. I do not agree with the term "how is other people" from the book No Exit, for there's many times where it is so dark that it is hard to handle things alone. Well, that is when someone you trust comes in. They save you from a sea of bitterness, and by just showing a little bit of kindness, we are saved. In our view, we may see this person as Superman, as Nietzsche has explained, because of how they are helping us when we are weak, even though they may be suffering themselves. This is all due to judgment of other people and judgment to ourselves. In those silent, dark, and lonely nights, it allows us to truly understand who we were and try to understand who we are. When we are alone, we are less afraid of being judged, because in the night, we know that not many is awake and only we are there to judge ourselves. As Sartre mentioned in the book No Exit, it indirectly says that we alone judge ourselves more strictly than what others say. Therefore, that is the reason why we think of the things we did throughout the day when we cannot sleep. Sometimes we just want to take a break from the real world, the world that is so cruel and just so tiring to live in. This is when addiction comes in. It may not necessarily mean that it's a bad thing for having a break from the real world, because it helps us get confidence we need to face the peers around us. Over the years, there have been many ways to take our mind off the real world because there's so much cruelty in it. Some of the ways to take our mind off of the real world is gaming. In the past, it may be drugs, alcohol, or even war. We all crave to be noticed and recognized as someone that is important, but sometimes we may feel helpless in this cruel world, and therefore we have an existential crisis. Many of us find the meaning in life and get back up once again. There's no time set on the process of giving up and trying. It can take days or even months. But most who has given up commit suicide, for to them they are worthless and fade away like just an old memory. As time passes, the reality in the real world is pushed forward, and the children stop being influenced by it in a long and young stage of their life. Gaming is not necessarily bad, for it motivates the new generation to become something great. Gaming is so popular among the new generation, for it is a new platform where they can be recognized and accepted. They create a world of their own in the games that they play and love to be part of it. That is why it's so addictive, for they are accepted in the gaming world while they aren't in the real world. Being in the gaming world has good influence on the children of the generation, for it allows them to gain hope where it is lost in the real world. When they are confused about the real world and the gaming world, they tend to think that suicide is a reset button for the real world. I don't necessarily think that gaming is bad for people, but it is a place where they can get motivation. It should be used to get momentum of the meaning of life and not life itself. It should be used to gain momentum on the meaning of life and not life itself. We do this to escape the suffering that we are having, but is suffering pain?
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about is suffering pain. People might think that suffering and pain are the same things due to the fact that both of them can be described as an experience of unpleasantness associated with the perception of harm or threat in an individual. Suffering is the state of undergoing pain, distress, or hardship, and it is often categorized as physical or mental. It may come in all intensity, from mild to intolerable. Suffering occurs in the lives of sentient beings in many manners, often dramatically that affects both body and mind. You can suffer emotionally even on a sunny day when nothing apparently bad is happening to you on the outside. Suffering is the negative story you are telling yourself about what is happening now, what has happened in the past, or what could potentially happen in the future. But is suffering truly pain? Suffering is the internal while pain is external. Therefore, suffering is not same as pain. It may be the cause of pain, but it is definitely not the same as pain. According to Nietzsche, we must not ignore or numb the mental pain, for it may be necessary for us to take the steps to improve our lives. It is fine to take our minds off once in a while, for it is what keeps us sane in our world. We need the helps of the others to let us ease the suffering that we are feeling. That is the reason why we seek for relationship. It does not necessarily mean the relationship you have or had with your partner. It could be any relationship you have with others. May it be with the teacher, parents, or even friends. We seek attention for wanting to be noticed and understood. We seek to be trusted and being important because that's when we share our emotions so that they can help us lessen the focus on that we are having on suffering. Therefore, suffering is not certainly pain. but yet it is for sure the cause of pain. We can reduce or overcome the suffering by having other people that you trusted as your mental support. Making friends is really important because having other people that you trusted to share your sufferings could make you to not be so greatly affected by the sufferings as your friends to be as your support. When I moved to Boston about 3 years ago, I experienced pain caused by suffering from the racism in my school. Some people liked to bully me about being an Asian. It was painful because I was truly suffered from the bully. Well, at the end, I reduced and even stopped the suffering due to the large group of friends that I made in school. They were my mental support that supports me whenever I feel pain that caused from all the sufferings I endure. It is not always the best way to stop the suffering of an individual by not caring about other people's judgment, because even if you don't care about how others think, the pain will still be somewhere deep down in your heart. From my personal experience, I believe that having friends to be your support is the most efficient way to stop the sufferings and pain in yourself.